Alright, Shalom, and welcome to another show of GMS Collage, giving all praises to Yahweh Bashem Yahushua as always. Double honors to the elders, the elder apostles of GMS who rule well, and also honor and salutations to you other brothers that are out there teaching the word in sincerity and truth. Today is my personal second installment of the Gentiles versus Gentiles topic. I just wanted to touch on a couple things. One thing that we always argue about when we're out there at camp with these different Christians and people that come up concerning this topic is they speak as though it's impossible for there to be Jews outside of what was known as Jerusalem at the time. They speak as though that's an impossible thing to happen, as though there weren't any dispersings that happened at that time. If you were a Jew, you lived in Jerusalem, and that was it. Anywhere else that you lived, it's only talking about these Greek people. So I wanted to go into the term diaspora and what it means, and help to bring some clarity or some kind of understanding of the different times that the so-called Jews or the Israelites were scattered throughout all the known world at that time. So without further ado, I wanted to start with James 1:1. It says James 1:1. It says James, a servant of the Most High and of the Lord Yahushua the Messiah, to the 12 tribes which are scattered abroad, greeting. So this was a letter written by James to the 12 tribes that were scattered, right? So right there, I mean, case closed, right? But as you can see, the 12 tribes, which were, Judah, Benjamin, Levi, Ephraim, so forth and so on, all those 12 tribes, we were not only was Judah, Benjamin, and Levi scattered throughout all the known world, right? But the other tribes that had left the land earlier in history were also scattered, and they were over here on the Western Hemisphere. So that scattering was something that has always happened to the nation of Israel. So if you go back to the Northern Kingdom, when the Northern Kingdom was taken out of the land by the Assyrians, right? You had when in the time of Antiochus, you had that time where people were being persecuted by the so-called Greeks, right? They left the land at that time. You had all these different times in history where our people were being either taken out of the land by force or leaving the land because of some turmoil that was happening in the land, whether it been for a famine. As a matter of fact, our forefathers, the original patriarchs of the nation of Israel, left Jerusalem because of a famine to go down into Egypt. So diasporas or scatterings have always happened to our people from its inception. You see. So I want to go to James 1:1 in the blue letter to look up that word scattered. All right. So it's I already have it pulled up. So it's G1290, and I hope you can hear me. I guess they're doing some work over there. I didn't know. I would have never came over there, but hopefully you can hear me on the camera. So it's G1290. Of course, Satan got a Jewish job. When I pulled up, I didn't hear none of that. Now I'm recording it, you hear all that noise. So hopefully you can hear me on the camera. So it's G1290, and you got the word dispersed. It's used once as the word dispersed. It's used once as the word scattered abroad, and it's used once as the word scattered. And it says here, as scattering, dispersion, of Israelites dispersed among foreign nations. You see, so now we're starting to understand a little bit what that scattered is, right? It says of the Christians scattered abroad amongst the Gentiles, right? So you had Israelites in many different nations. You had Israelites in I'm sorry, I keep saying nations, but you had nations, but you had Israelites scattered in different countries, right? You had Israelites in Ephesus. You had them in Corinth, in Lystra, Derbe, all these different cities that are known as now modern day Turkey. All these different cities and towns that is known as modern day Greece. Our people were scattered all amongst there. In Italy, right? If you go to Acts the 13th chapter, it'll tell you that there was an expulsion of the Jews by Claudius Caesar, right? So our people were scattered everywhere. So when you hear things like Jew nor Greek, that's because those people that were calling themselves Greek at that time were Israelites, were indeed Israelites. That's why the Lord said there's no difference between them. There's no difference between them because they were the same nation of people. There were just some of them that happened to be living in other nations. So what I want to do, I want to go to Maccabees, first Maccabees, just to show one of the reasons, not the reason, but one of the reasons why our people started going off to live in other places other than Jerusalem, right? So this is one of the reasons why. So I want to start. I don't want to read the whole chapter, but I want to still get a lot of meat, because you had some Israelites who left the land because the land was being destroyed by the Greeks. You know, they were setting up garrisons. They were killing people. They were ransacking the temple. So you had people leaving because their land was being destroyed, and then you had people who were leaving because they wanted to take part in what the Greeks were doing. So they wanted to live as the Greeks were living. So they left because of that. So I was thought of an example before I started. When I was younger, I was born in Schenectady, New York. Some people may know where that is. Some people may not. But it's no different than any city that's in the outskirts of the capital city. So in New York State, obviously the capital is Albany, and Schenectady is like a suburb of Albany. And in the earlier years of the inception of Schenectady, people were leaving the city life of Albany, New York, to go to Schenectady because they set up the plant General Electric in Schenectady, right? So even though you had people who were native to Albany, they were leaving there to find other jobs, to find jobs, especially for General Electric. And my grandfather happened to work for General Electric, my mother's father. So it's not a new thing, and it's not an old thing where people would leave either deliberately from the land that they were from, or by force and without choice. Some people left Albany because they didn't have a choice; they needed a job, so they went, to Schenectady to go work for General Electric. And some people stayed there where they were from and just traveled back and forth. But just to make the point that people you can leave your land. Just because you leave your land, that doesn't mean you're no longer a native of that land. It doesn't mean that you're going back to the scriptures, that you're no longer an Israelite just because you live in Ephesus, or just because you live in Macedonia. It doesn't mean that you're not an Israelite anymore. It just means that you've taken citizenship, or you've taken leave, so to speak, from your homeland. All right. So this is First Maccabees, and I want to probably jump around a little bit. Right. So I want to read this first. Just to give you a sense that some Israelites left by choice, and some Israelites started taking on the customs of the heathen by choice, or something that they wanted to do. All right, so I'll jump up to about I'll start at 9. This is First Maccabees 1 and 9, and I'll just give you a little backstory so I don't have to read the whole first eight verses. This is the time during King Alexander, or Alexander the Great, after his death, and the men that ruled after him, and this one man in particular who did the persecution of Israel. So verse 9, it says, and after his death they all put crowns upon themselves, so did their sons after them many years, and evils were multiplied in the earth. So those men who put crowns on them, we're talking about, hopefully I get them right, it's Lysimaeus, you had Ptolemy, you had Cassander, and you had, there was one more, it escapes me, Cassander, Lysimaeus, Ptolemy, and there was one more. It escapes me right now. If you can put it in the comment board for me, that'd be good. I haven't spoke on that in a while. But it was for the 4 generals of Alexander the Great. And it said that they put crowns on themselves, right? So verse 10, it says, and there came out of them a wicked root, Antiochus, surnamed Epiphanes, son of Antiochus the king, who had been a hostage at Rome, and he reigned in the 137th year of the kingdom of the Greeks. Right? So it says, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. You see? So there were Israelite men who would say, you know what, look, man, we catching hell since we departed from the Greeks. So let's make league with them. Let's make a confederacy with them, because we catching hell right now, you know. So you had some Israelites who were down with the taking over of the Greeks of their people. All right, so now I'm going to jump down to I'll start at the 29th verse. So this is now the 29th verse. Reading down, it says, and after 2 years fully expired, the king set his chief collector of the tribute unto the cities of Judah, who came unto Jerusalem with a great multitude. Okay? Verse 30, it says, and spake peaceable words unto them, but all was deceit. For when they had given him credence, he fell suddenly upon the city and smote it very sore, and destroyed much people of Israel. Okay? It says, and when he had taken the spoils of the city, he set it on fire, and pulled down the houses and walls thereof on every side. But the women and children took they captive and possessed the cattle. Then builded they the city of David with a great and strong wall, and with mighty towers, and made it a stronghold for them. And they put therein a sinful nation, wicked men, and fortified themselves therein. So they were putting hell on our homeland, man. They were putting hell on us, setting up their own, you know, towers and garrisons and storehouses for their weapons. They were doing all kinds of things. They were burning the city down, taking the women and children and making them slaves. So that was the hell that our people were going through at that time. Okay, it says, let's see, verse 35. It says, they stored it also with armor and victuals, and when they had gathered together the spoils of Jerusalem, they laid them up there, and so they became a sore snare. Okay. Verse 36, for it was a place to lie in wait against the sanctuary, and an evil adversary to Israel. Thus they shed innocent blood on every side of the sanctuary and defiled it. So here's the point here. In verse 38, it says, insomuch that the inhabitants of Jerusalem fled because of them. So they fled. So where'd they go? Where'd the inhabitants of Jerusalem go when they fled? Where could they have gone? Ephesus, maybe? I don't know. Maybe Galatia? Maybe Corinth? Right? So it says, whereupon the city was made an habitation of strangers, and became strange to those that were born in her. So that land, our homeland, Jerusalem, Israel, became strange to us because we lived in other places. Right? So naturally, when you go live in another place, like I mentioned in the other show, when you go live in another place, what's the old saying? when in Rome, do as the Romans. So they started living like the Greeks. They started practicing Greek customs. They started speaking the Greek language. Of course, when you, like, let's say for instance, if your job sends you to El Salvador, right, to work, you know, they're doing a I don't know, an expansion, and they happen to send you to start this new company in El Salvador. You got to speak the language of the people. You can't go down there speaking English. You got to learn the language of the people. So likewise, our people as well, when they started leaving our land and going into other lands and going into other countries, they had to learn the language of the people, right? And then when you learn the language of the people, you start to get in the habits of the people, start getting into the customs of the people, and next thing you know, after 3 to 4 generations, your children ain't gonna know nothing of Israel. Your great grandchildren, they'll know nothing of Israel. They'll know nothing of the customs. They'll know nothing of our laws, and then they'll have children. You got to take into account that our great grandchildren, great great grandchildren that have been in the Greek lands for a long period of time, probably married Greek women, right? So now their children probably even look like Greeks. I had this kid that I grew up with. His name was Marco, and that kid had looking back at that time, he had a good spirit, man, and he was a darker skinned kid, but he was Greek. His mother and father were Greek, but he was a dark skinned kid. How does that happen? That happened because our people Israel were in those Greek lands, man. You see? So going back to this, it said her sanctuary was laid waste like a wilderness. Her feasts were turned into mourning. Her Sabbath into reproach. So let's think about it like this, man. If something happened to you, something traumatic happened to you, one of the things that you'll do mentally is try to forget about it, right? So if that's happening to your land, it'll be easy for you to start trying to do things and take on different things to make you forget about that trauma that happened to you. So that's even more reason for our people to start taking on Greek languages and Greek customs. You see? So it says, her Sabbaths into reproach, her honor into contempt. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor. As had been her glory, so was her dishonor increased, and her excellency was turned into mourning. Moreover, King Antiochus wrote to his whole kingdom that all should be one people. So now, even the people who stayed in the land were under the decree of Antiochus that all people should become one people, right? This, even though Alexander the Great started the Hellenization process, Antiochus kind of perpetuated it. He brought it even further than Alexander had brought it, right? So even the people that didn't leave Jerusalem and start practicing other customs still was under that decree to start living like the other nations. See? So it says that all should be one people, and everyone should leave his laws. So all the heathen agreed according to the commandment of the king. Yea, many also of the Israelites consented to his religion, and sanctified unto idols and profaned the Sabbath. So that was even easier for those who left the land. It was even easier for them to start practicing other customs and start being like other people, right? So it says, for the king had sent letters by messengers unto Jerusalem and the cities of Judah, that they should follow the strange laws of the land, and forbid burnt offerings and sacrifice and drink offerings in the temple, and that they should profane the Sabbaths and festival days, and pollute the sanctuary and holy people, set up altars and groves and chapels of idols, and sacrifice swine's flesh and unclean beasts, that they should also leave their children uncircumcised, and make their souls abominable with all manner of uncleanness and profanation. So imagine this, right? Take this into account. You had the Israelites who maintained their integrity and said, you know what? I don't care what Antiochus says. I'm going to circumcise my children. I'm going to practice my laws, right? Imagine that, those people that kept their integrity, how they would look at the people who didn't. They would look at the people who said, you know what, I can't do this anymore. I'm not going to keep my laws anymore. I'm not gonna practice my way of living, my way of life anymore. The people that kept their integrity are naturally going to look down on them. So that's where you had this conversation with like, you know what, nah, those are Greeks. Those are Gentiles. That's why you had that conversation, because the people who kept their integrity looked down on them, man. So I think the point was driven home. You had Israelites that were scattered into other lands, the lands of Ephesus, the land of Corinth, the land of Galatia, and so forth and so on. There were thousands upon thousands of people who left the land to live in other lands and started to practice other customs. Okay, so it's not well, it is a mystery. It's not impossible for those people who are being called Gentiles and Greeks to be Israelites, because they were indeed Israelites. So with that being said, I want to give all praises again to Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, Tawadi Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, for allowing me to take part in this truth, allowing me to sup in this truth. And also double honors to the elder apostles of GMS who rule well, who through the spirit of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai have given us the tools to be able to teach the word. And I'm grateful for it. And also honor and salutations to you other brothers that are out there teaching the word in sincerity and truth. We on the home stretch, man. So hold on tight, and prepare yourself for the ride we getting ready to go on. All right. So with that, I'm gonna say shalom.